Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul, and this is a stream. I know I've said this before, but this is a stream I was not initially planning on doing. So tonight, of course, if you've seen the title by now, we are talking about Andor. And my thoughts were that initially I was going to wait to watch this show until it had completely come out and then watch it within pretty much all in one go. And my reasonings for that was because I felt like, at least with Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi, that part of the reason that I didn't like those shows so much, and real quick, oh, he's using this avatar. Okay, so I got to play the intro video. Here it is. It's Crit. All right, so how you doing tonight, Crit?
Hello.
So you really haven't missed much. I'm just sort of going over why are we talking about this? And I said how originally I was going to wait until this whole show had released, and I was just going to watch it in one go once it had. And a couple things had changed my mind. Number one, hearing you and, of course, a bunch of other people that I'm friends with say good things about this show. And also because, spoiler alert, this coming week, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to be meeting up with Coffee on Korriban, and he wants me to sit down with him and review episode 7 of Andor. And so I didn't want to go into the show blind and start with the 7th episode. So as me and Crit and Cash like to joke around, this is pretty much me doing my homework. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and talk about Andor. Now, this is a show, in fact, kind of our first bullet point I have to talk about here is how is this show different from past Star Wars? And let's get this out of the way right now. This is a much slower burn of a show than we're used to with Star Wars. And that is going to be an acquired taste for some. So, Crit, you said that you like it. I tend to agree. But why do you think that some people might not like it?
They're used to the Star Wars pacing. They're used to act. I would say this. Watch Mandalorian episode 1. It's slow, but it starts off with action. Then there's some talking. Then there's some action.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that applies to all the Star Wars. Kenobi episode 1 had moments where, yes, there were stuff like there's stuff like the Reva and but this show is where it's more character driven.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a unique take. It's like, I guess you could say it's Star Wars. It's not necessarily Star Wars, but it is Star Wars.
Right.
And I feel like that's what's really unique about it.
Okay. Real quick, hello to Cobra Disney Jedi, who says, the previous episodes were good, but meh. Episode 6 was great, and I hope they keep the momentum. I definitely agree with that statement.
I don't agree with the meh. We'll explain it, but I feel like those episodes that you think are meh or boring, those are more build-ups to. And I think you said, Paul, you like the first arc more than the second arc, even though the second arc had the better climax.
Agreed. Because to me, the build. Okay, so let's explain this real quick. So far, there's 6 episodes. And within those 6 episodes are 2 different arc. Episodes 1 through 3 are their own arc. Episodes 4 through 6 are their own arc. And yes, I do overall prefer the first arc over the second. Not that I hate the second, I don't. But to me, the build up in the first arc was more gripping to me than the build up of the second arc.
Which is more of a heist plan
Right.
planning.
So overall, I definitely like this show. I definitely think this is a for sure better show than Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi.
And the Bad
What?
Batch.
Yeah, and the Bad Batch. But then again, I don't think that's a very fair comparison given one's live action and one's animated. At least by my standards. So let's talk, and here's the thing: we're not gonna do, since we're talking about 6 episodes, we're not gonna do a complete scene by scene breakdown of all 6 episodes. We're gonna do it kind of like what we did with Cobra Kai, where we're gonna talk about the bigger points that happen. So let's talk now about the story so far. So the first 3 episodes are sort of a reintroduction, you could say, to the character of Cassian Andor, where he is, how long he's been there, and what put him in this position. Real quick, Cobra Disney Jedi says, I don't mind the slow burn, but it was hard to gauge the direction of the show.
Gauge. Like, hold on, gauge. I need to determine. I immediately knew what the show was about. It's the show is to clearly show, instead of just showing one's hero journey, it shows Andor. I wouldn't even say Andor is the main focus of the show. He technically is. He's the hero. But I would say that this show does something which I don't think any other Star Wars show has done, where it shows different points of view.
Right.
And that's mainly with there's a couple principal characters.
Whoa, you got really loud there for a second.
Did you fix that? No. So it has basically. Oh.
Everything okay?
You're freezing for a bit. Okay, I fixed it now. It mainly has the pretty much it's Andor's beginnings and how he gets involved with the Rebel Alliance. That's pretty much the core story. But there's also a couple things. There is Mon Mothma, and I presume her attempts to. She's involved with the whole operation with the art salesman masquerading the leader. I would call him a leader masquerading as a art salesman. The Lufin, who's pretty much the architect. I don't think she was aware of what was going on though, but it kind of looks into her life in the Senate, and there's another. The other point of view is, I would guessing the deputy inspector, who thought he could do this, and I said that this is a peril. He thought he had this situation under control. He thought he was like, when we first saw him, we thought he was like another Thrawn person. Actually, that's not the case. In fact, he overestimated anything. Like, his whole squad, like him being so confident, is just to see that lead up to all his corpo buddies getting destroyed by Andor and his allies in the local village. The fact that he did not, and now and now he's like he's at his ultimate low. The guy that you fought was going to be the generic Imperial Admiral Commander guy. He's gone so low he goes back to live with his mother.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, and he's still obsessed, and you could still tell he's obsessed with Andor, and you
Mm-hmm.
know he's gonna come back. Like he won't let go. So
Exactly.
that's how you build up a villain. I feel like he's going to be the main villain. Um,
Now, I do want to point out that this is a pop-in stream, so if you have seen all of the episodes of Andor that have come out so far, and you would like to talk about this with us, you're certainly welcome to. The link is in the pinned comments of the chat. So, I think the best way that I could put it, because when I first heard this show, I was immediately not very interested in it because having seen Rogue One, and for the record, I do believe that Rogue One is one of the best things, not the best, but one of the best things that Disney has ever done with Star Wars. And Cassian Andor was not my favorite character from that movie. And had you told me back then that he was going to get his own spin-off show, I would have said, why?
I would have said I don't care
Yeah,
because they all die anyway.
exactly. And at least to me, if you're going to give a character their own show, why not the blind guy and his brother slash friend? But I will say that's not really what this show is. This show is not necessarily about Cassian Andor, even though yes, he has the most screen time. If anything, this show is about what's going on within the galaxy as a whole, seen through the eyes of Cassian Andor. Would you say that's about right, Crit?
Now seen through the eyes of Cassian Andor, Mon Mothma, uh,
Right.
uh, and the deputy inspector. I feel like those three characters are the ones the show is focusing. They're focusing on Cassian Andor, Senator Mon Mothma, and then they are focusing on the deputy inspector who is living with his mother.
Exactly.
Wait. There's a fourth character, the Imperial Security Bureau. I forgot her name. Very forgettable.
Yeah.
I think she's the most forgettable part of this show.
Yeah, she is the newest version of the Star Wars girl boss character, for
But
lack of a better term.
she's not bad or anything. She's just forgettable in the no.
Right. Cobra Disney Jedi said Clem should never have changed his name to Cassian.
If you ever played Telltale's The Walking Dead, which I highly recommend, the there's a character now called Clementine, and you play her father figure, and he refers to her all the time as Clem. So when they mentioned Clem, I was like, "Hey, Clem, how you doing? You want
Clem is just such a country name. Watch out for those varmints out there, Clem.
The Walking Dead was set in Georgia, so Clam.
So we're getting ahead of ourselves. So like I said, the show, the first arc is sort of establishing where Cassian is and what it took to get him in that position, where he's just kind of living undercover as a petty thief that will go out and hit these small-ish targets from the Empire. And it's revealed that he's from a planet called Kenari. And there he had a sister. And he's looking for his sister. And he goes to, what is it called? Morvala 1? Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay, he goes to this place called Morvala 1, which does not look very much like Star Wars, admittedly. It looks very cyberpunk / Blade Runner-ish, says the guy who knows nothing about either. But he walks into what we later find out is a brothel, And one of the waitresses tries to be like, hey, what are you having tonight? You know, what sort of girl would you like to have tonight? And he just says, I don't care about any of that. I'm looking for my sister. Meanwhile, there's 2 Corpos security guards there that are heckling him, and he tries to just blow them off. And of course, he finds that his sister isn't there. So he leaves, and the 2 guards catch up to him, and they try to mug him. He fights back, and in the process, one of the guards hits his head and falls down dead. And so while the other guard is panicking about this, Andor, having gotten his hand on the guard's gun, shoots him and kills him. So
and the most ruthless.
yeah, like full on headshot.
He's begging for his life, and just
exactly. So Cassian escapes, and he goes back to his to the planet that he had been staying on, called Ferrix. So the superiors of this security force hear, of course, about the murder, and they're doing their best to investigate it. And this is where we meet the head of the security force, who, like I said, is hell-bent on trying to figure out what happened to his 2 guys, and this is where he learns about Cassian. Now, how does he... Black Dragon, by the way, saying, sounds like something I would do. I believe you. So, how does he find out about Cassian? Well, there's this one girl on Ferrix that Cassian is friends with, and of course, it wouldn't be a stream if he didn't show up. I don't know what he means by crackers and soup, but whatever.
Crackers and soup, loop-de-loop.
Yeah, I'll just flash this one up real quick. Oh, and also hello to Alice83 Ashla. Thanks for joining. So, like I said, there's this girl that Andor is friends with in Ferrix.
I'm guessing the link finally appeared because everyone's coming on.
Probably. Phil said Crit got it. Oh, I get it. The old Annie song, Animal Crackers in My Soup, Monkeys and Rabbits, loop-de-loop. I don't know how the rest of it goes. And hello also to Leia Rose. Thanks for joining. So like I said, this girl that Cassian is friends with has another guy that she's in a relationship with. And this guy kind of gets a little bit jealous of how close Cassian is with his girlfriend. So one night, as Cassian and this girl are like planning to sell this stolen piece of Imperial tech that he had gotten his hands on, the boyfriend, in his drunkenness, gets really jealous, and upon hearing that a man from Kenari is wanted, he decides to rat out Cassian. And that sends all of the security force that they can to Ferrix to try and apprehend and arrest him. So, while this is going on, unbeknownst to Andor, there's another gentleman that's making his way to Ferrix. An elderly gentleman who, let's just say, is more than he seems initially. So the agents arrive on Ferrix, and they're doing their absolute best to apprehend Cassian, but he's managing to give them the slip thanks to the locals, who of course don't like the security agents. And they have this signaling thing that they do where they're banging on random pieces of metal hanging outside their door.
It's a reckoning.
Yeah. At one point, I guess you could say Cassian's adopted mother gets apprehended by the security, and she is, of course, not cooperating with them as much as you can. And eventually, Cassian meets up with this elderly gentleman named Luthen, who is someone that was initially introduced to him as someone that buys stolen goods, like a fence, basically. But it's later revealed that Luthen wasn't really here for the tech. He was here specifically for Cassian to basically give him a way out of this life that he was in and let him strike a blow for real against the Empire. And before Cassian can say anything, the guards show up and they get into a fight. And so during the fights, the factory that they're in comes down. Cassian gets hurt on the arm. But they manage to get away by sending out a speeder as a decoy for the guards to shoot, and they're going on a speeder bike in the other direction. And so you have the security guard leader who was going into this, he thought that he was in control of the situation, and it just completely blew up in his face and backfired. And like Crit said, he just crumples into an absolute heap emotionally. So Cassian and Luthen get out of there, and Luthen drops off Cassian on Aldhani, I believe the name is, of the planet.
Yeah, Aldhani.
Yes. Drops him off with a small band of rebels, because they say at one point in episode 5 they toast to the rebellion. So we'll just call them the rebels. So Cassian gets dropped off with the rebels, who intend to pull a heist on the Imperial base on Aldhani, specifically to steal, basically, from their bank vault, from their big bank vault. And so Cassian's getting to know them. He finds that not everyone's willing for him to be there. He's, of course, not sure if he wants to be there. And it's just one of those things where we don't have to like each other, but we got to work together, sort of thing. Meanwhile, Luthen goes to Coruscant, and this was one of my favorite things to see in these 6 episodes, was seeing Coruscant again. And Coruscant looks different than it did in the prequels. Crit, would you care to elaborate on that?
It looks dead. It looks gray and dead.
Yeah. Contrast that to the prequels, where everything was lit up and lively. Granted, we're seeing it mostly during the day, but still, even during the day, it was lit up and lively, whereas now it's just depressing. So Luthen sets himself up and kind of dons a bit of a disguise, sets himself up as an art/artifact salesman. And he meets up with, of all people, Mon Mothma, and they both have a bit of a chat in the back where no one can hear them, basically saying, hey, listen, we have this plan going on with the rebels, and Mon Mothma's like, okay, you better not screw that up. Now, real quick, we are going to unfortunately interrupt for some sad news that came out today. And
Yeah.
Crit, I heard about this from you, actually, in your Discord.
I was upset this morning.
Robbie Coltrane, who was the actor that played Hagrid in the Harry Potter series, unfortunately passed away today at the age of 72. Crit, do we know what he passed away from?
It might have been old age.
Okay. But yeah, he passed away today, and all I know him as is Hagrid. I'm sure he had done other things.
He's in GoldenEye.
He was in GoldenEye.
Yeah, he was the Russian mobster James Bond meets.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. So yeah, Robbie Coltrane, thank you for your life and career in Hollywood. We've benefited a lot from it, and you've earned your rest. So back to the story. We see a lot of scenes of Cassian and the rebels prepping for this heist, learning how to blend in with the soldiers. And it's really weird. I've noticed that they're not using a lot of stormtroopers right now. Like all the soldiers that we're seeing are pretty much just basic soldiers that don't even wear like it. So obviously, some wear helmets, but they're not wearing stormtrooper armor. They're wearing just basic futuristic military armor. Why do you think that is, Crit? Why not have them be stormtroopers?
In in Aldani,
Yeah.
I think I think because it was a vault, it was at stormtroopers. We haven't seen much stormtroopers, but I think that's because actually that's actually a good question. In I might hold on, I'm gonna look that up.
Okay. While you do, there is another aspect to the story that we get introduced to during the second arc, and that is this one Imperial Security Bureau officer that I guess you could say recently arrived on the council, and she is.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Okay. The in-universe explanation is that stormtroopers are the most elite of. They're not just conscripts in the Empire. They're the most elite. So it makes sense for stormtroopers to be with Darth Vader or Palpatine, but not really in the sense of being guards on a vault type of thing.
Okay. All right. Fair enough then. And now that you say that, that also makes sense why in Solo, um, Han wasn't an outright stormtrooper. He was just a normal soldier. So basically, by that definition, then stormtroopers are like special forces.
Yes. And it makes sense in the OT because stormtroopers were always around Vader or on the ship on the Star Destroyers, which was Vader's fleet. But that actually is a good explanation. But that still doesn't change the fact stormtroopers can't shoot well.
Exactly. So yeah, that truthfully, I think they should have been stormtroopers, and stormtroopers should have been the only thing that the Imperial military had, but that's just me. So eventually, like I said, we meet this one girl who is part of the Imperial Security Bureau, and she, at least the sense that I get from her, is she's supposed to be the same kind of character that Riva was, the strong take charge, for lack of a better term, girl boss character. Now, she has not done anything blatantly offensive or cringy yet, at least to me. But I'm still admittedly bracing for it to happen. What do you think, Crit?
With how the show is, okay. There's a difference between Kenobi and this show. In Kenobi, there were moments where I just sighed, like Riva screaming out of nowhere, dumb decisions. Again, when Kenobi was fighting Vader, it kept cutting the Riva. That was dumb.
Yeah.
Lars and Owen fighting back. I'm getting chills even thinking about it. Leia running away from Obi-Wan, even though he could just use the Force to catch her. In this show, there has not been a single moment I mean, the woman, the ISB agent aggravated me, but it wasn't like Riva bad where I was kind of just face palming.
What part of her aggravated you?
No, it's not. Well, just her pestering, like, I want now. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was done enough where it wasn't cringe. It was believable. I did not. I haven't felt. To me, this Andor kind of felt like a fluid show. I don't. I've not felt any like. I mean, maybe okay. This is going a little on too long, type of feeling, but um, I've not really cringed at all.
Yeah,
I
I haven't either,
I
but
feel
that
like that's if a show does not. There has not been a show moment in the show where I would say, "Oh, I would change that." Um,
okay.
the or I would cut that out. To me, that's actually very surprising from this show. Um, that the way the show has. I will say that this is the first, or maybe not since Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah,
I
I would.
would. I will say that this show I would not. I like how it is. Maybe for some people they could cut out some of the episode 4 and 5 because they do drag, but um, even if you cut those out, I mean, I don't hate those. I mean that would just be for pacing, but even then, I'm not like hurt by the show
Right.
whatsoever,
Yeah, I can see that.
and that's a
So
first. That's actually a big relief now that I think about it.
so yeah, I think now that I think about it, I do agree with what you said. Where yes, the character is very naggy, but it works within the universe because well,
It's
I think
not
what
like Reva. Where is Kenobi? And she's screaming at
yeah, I think what we're saying is it could be way worse.
could be Book of Boba Fett bad or Kenobi bad.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, just just because I can.
Like a panther. Yes.
So, anyways, continuing on. Eventually, it's time to go through with the heist, and so Andor and three other people pose as soldiers. Real quick, Leia Rose says Andor is entertaining. Yeah, it very much is. So Andor poses as a soldier with three other guys. There's an Imperial officer that's an inside man that's helping them. And then there's two ladies that are sneaking into the base while everyone is being distracted by this one natural phenomenon that happens every 3 years called the Eye, which is basically this big meteor shower type event that lights the whole sky up with just thousands upon thousands of streaks of light and very colorful streaks of light too, and it really is a sight to see. So far the plan goes off without a hitch, and they kidnap one particular Imperial officer, holding his family hostage. They force him to open the vault so that they can get to the credits. But while they're getting at the credits, of course, the guards figure out what's going on, and a firefight happens. They manage to escape, and the shot of them flying away through the eye with TIE fighters chasing them was really cool. And you mentioned this too, Crit. There was something in this that we don't usually see, and that's TIE fighter pilots actually getting ready to pilot their TIE fighters.
Yeah, it was actually a relief to see TIE fighter pilots. Have not seen them forever,
Mm-hmm.
and they look clean, and it was just very beautiful.
It did.
It looked very pleasing to the eye.
And it was also a nice detail to show that as they were flying through the eye, their instruments weren't working properly because of all the interference coming through, which is the same interference that Andor and their ship were having too. So while So after this happens, they make it to where there's a doctor waiting for them because one of their crew, and a pretty nice, likable young man too, he was, I guess you could call him the smart one, and he was like the one that was super into the whole symbolism of rebellion and all that, and he was writing actually a manifesto about it. He got gravely injured during the flight out because he got crushed by some of the pallets of crates. And so they had to take him to the doctor, who tried his best to save him, but unfortunately was not successful. While this is going on, Andor is having a conversation with one of the other crewmen, a guy by the name of Skeen. And now, Skeen and Andor had something of a spat earlier on, where Skeen tried to pull a knife on him, accusing him of not being who he said he was, because he found out that Andor had a certain kyber crystal necklace on him that was given to him by Luthen. But here in this conversation, Skeen is trying to convince him, hey, let's just leave them behind and take the money ourselves and split it down the middle. Basically not even caring about his battle buddies. In fact, it pisses off Andor so much that he shoots him and kills him. And with that, Andor gets what he owes from their boss and leaves. Meanwhile, Luthen hears that the operation, with a few hiccups, went successfully. And so that's pretty much the story so far.
No. He died.
What are you talking? No, I'm talking about Andor. He got what he
wanted. No, I thought you were
Skeen dies. I said that.
No, the guy that was being operated on.
Yeah, I said that too.
Oh, okay. I must have missed it.
Cobra Disney Jedi says, I jokingly said on other channels that the Doctor was the father/grandfather of Maz Kanata. I can see aesthetically where there's some similarities. And hello also to Felix from Star Wars Theology. Thank you for joining. And you know what, Felix? I just realized something. You and I, whether in Discord or somewhere, I never did hear your thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 5. So we need to talk about that sometime. So yeah, that's the story. And like I said, I brushed through a lot because, as we said before, this is a much slower burn story. And either that's something that you're going to like, or it's something that you're not really going to like. It is different. It's an acquired taste. Crit and I, we both like it. I think it's a nice change of pace. And I think the more slower, character-driven way, I'm not going to say it's the way Star Wars needs to go going forward, but it's nice every once in a while to have a show like this. Wouldn't you say, Crit?
Yeah, every Star Wars show doesn't need to be like this, but it's new. And I feel maybe some people aren't used to new. You know how people were towards the prequels?
Yes.
Yeah.
Real quick, we have another guest joining us. So let me bring him in. Hello to Star Wars Theology. What's up, man?
Hello. How's everybody?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
So I take it you've been watching Andor also?
Yeah. I'm one of the few that actually like it a lot.
Good.
I really like it a lot. Especially this last episode really touched me really hard.
Oh yeah, the last episode was amazing, especially the ending.
Yeah. How you feeling about the actual series? How you feel overall on the series?
I will say this, as someone that went into it, not really, even before Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi turned me off of Star Wars completely for a while. This was just not a show that I was really big on. But I can now safely say it has me. It has me interested. It has me wanting to know what happens next.
Yeah. Oh, what about you, Lord? Greg?
Well, I'm a fan of Blade Runner, and I could acknowledge the second Blade Runner is very slow and dull in some parts, but it's a very good movie still. I still like it. This show. Now, I've made my opinion known. I hate the Book of Boba Fett,
Yeah.
and I found the story of Kenobi would be okay on paper. In execution, it was one of the most mediocre things I've ever sat through. But it, uh, I wasn't necessarily done with Star Wars. I was just disappointed in how cheap it had become the last year.
Yeah.
This was a change. It did not feel cheap.
Yeah.
It didn't feel manufactured. It actually felt like there was a passion behind it. And
Yeah.
and I say and I've said that, it's unique, and it's kind of a new take on Star Wars where it's more character driven than, action whatever the last two shows were trying to be. Is it slow? Yes. But I think that it just builds upon itself and to get to the climax. Not like Arcane. Uh, uh, not necessarily like Arcane, because these two, again, like episode 4 and 5 was just really a build up and build up and build up. And while it was good, some people might say, "Oh, it's boring," whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah, to me, I think that's what happened. I think there's a lot of stuff happening here because first, I think we have been conditioned to like fast gratification on stuff lately, because of how the content lately has been produced, and
Right.
everybody wants fast, gratification. If it doesn't happen in the first 20 minutes, I'm out of here, right?
Right.
And this is kind of old school. This is kind of like the old school of building up, teaching all the characters, building up something that was gonna pay off. And for me, that chase at the end on this episode is in my top five Star Wars, battle chase of all the movies and everything. To
yeah,
me, what if you go very slow motion on what happened there, the TIE fighter against that cargo spacecraft, that's tough to do.
Oh yeah.
That's not easy to do.
it
and
was
and and to minimize any of that is kind of crazy, what I mean?
it,
Because
Yep. Real quick, I
yeah,
want to say hello to
hello,
Alice83 Hashla. How
no,
you been?
hello,
the
hello.
the last episode 6 of Andor, was, in my opinion, amazing. It was amazing, and it was the best. It has to be the best content, like the most passionate of the content we've got in the last two series. I People will try to say, "Oh, what about Obi-Wan and Darth Vader?" Oh, that's too easy. And even then, I had problems with that. That fight was shot horribly, and it was just fan service, a mode. If you speak, I think that is it French, whatever. But
Right.
this was, it actually had tension. It actually had stakes. Um, and then the eye scene was amazing. The the and the fact that they were fretting to kill a family to
Oh,
make this
Yeah,
robbery
that
work,
was like, whoa.
Yes.
it showed how the it it moved the lines from good to evil.
yeah,
Because this group wasn't necessarily good or bad. They were just trying to do what they think is right. But the again, they took heavily intense measures, and that's
Yes.
why I continue to think that this was the show that this show in particular is so unique compared to the other stuff that that's why I think I just I'm becoming more like I'm more appreciative of it because I feel just more passion. Tony Gilroy is more passionate about this story than whoever wrote the Kenobi show.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go to you now, Alice. Overall, what would you say so far about Andor?
It is true that some stuff were slower, but it did pay off. Like in episode 6, like editing my reaction, but my heart rate was like literally so high the whole time. I was like, we have like a panic attack, like because only person I knew was gonna survive was Andor. That's the only thing I knew. But other than
Right.
that, it was just like, is this gonna succeed? Is it not? I knew something was gonna go wrong, and it did. And it was just like this whole thing. But the overall series, I do like. But I also liked it more when I watched it in Japanese because I watched it in Japanese with my mom. All the Star Wars,
Oh, nice.
because
Oh,
that's her
okay.
language. So every time I watch Star Wars with her, so all the Star Wars I watched, I also watched it in Japanese. And when
Okay.
I watched it in Japanese, I don't know, for the first episode 1, 2, I really liked it more. It was really
How,
weird.
I
Good.
was gonna ask
I,
you, how's the translation? How it feels, the emotions and everything. Does that they do a good job?
mostly it's accurate, but sometimes it's like not I mean it's all American, so when they do it, the mouse like if you do it in another language, you have to match the mouse. So sometimes it's gonna
Right.
be a little different. It's the
Yeah.
same,
Crit
but it's like it's gonna be a little different.
Crit and I
But
know all about that from watching the old
yeah.
Godzilla movies. Which, speaking of, let me show you a great example of that.
All this intravenous stuff's no good for you. Stick to smoking.
Clearly, that's not what he was saying.
No.
And
But I do want to bring this up. And this is something I think we all need to keep in mind. As good as this show is, I do not think that this is the show that's going to win back fans that have checked out of
Mhm.
Disney Star Wars. And Cobra Disney Jedi pretty much voices my reason as to why. He says, my theory is that Disney didn't want to put the passion into George's legacy characters like Kenobi and Boba Fett, but they want to do something that is like this, that is theirs, like Rogue One and Andor.
Hold on there.
And and I'm going to include Mando in there too.
Mando.
yeah.
All right, let's go on passion. The subject of passion. There's a man. The man who wrote the show created the show. This is his vision, Tony Gilroy. He has said before, and this might surprise you, he is not a fan of Star Wars.
I think I did read that somewhere.
Okay.
And he was never a fan of Star Wars, but he was, and that kind of like, well, why would you write a Star Wars show even though you're not a fan of Star Wars?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now.
But the thing I think is that he didn't let the rules of Star Wars get to his mind. He was interested in, well, I want to go back and expand on my characters from Rogue One. How am I going to do that? And to me, he took the world of Star Wars and he went, instead of the directions of the other show where they want to show you, hey, they want to show you what A's character is gonna do, or remember this guy? What are they gonna do? He wanted to show. Well, we don't really know a lot about the state of the galaxy. What if we put what if we look at it from a wider lens?
Right.
And his interpretation, and for the most part, his interpretation of Star Wars is unique and new. That, I wouldn't even call it Star Wars. I didn't even know it was Star Wars until you see a TIE fighter here, or they're wearing an Imperial officer here. But I'm so pulled in that, yes, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is Coruscant. This is.
Yeah. I think I think you're right. And to me, that approach of wanting to do something to
Don't let.
I'm trying to think of how to say this.
What I'm trying to say is even though he's not a particular fan of Star Wars, he's the fan of the characters. But he's the
Right.
fan, but he probably looked into the world of Star Wars and said, "What can I do where the Star Wars part of this show doesn't hold me back?"
Okay, and that I can respect, even if I don't know if the idea still admittedly doesn't sit right with me, but I'm seeing the results in front of me and I like the results, so I can't complain too much. But I do think that there has to be some form of happy medium here. And going back to my original point of, I don't think that this is the show that's going to win back lapsed fans. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong on that. But I think what truly is going to win back a lot of lapsed fans. Now, granted, not everyone's going to come back for a myriad of reasons. But I think what's going to win back a lot of lapsed fans is if they do something with those legends characters, with the George Lucas characters, and it be just as good, if not better than this, given the same amount of dedication and respect and passion as this.
And
that's how I think you win people back.
I was reading an article while you're talking, and he went into this, and he actually said, "Well, I don't know anything about Star Wars, even though I'm not a big fan, but I wanted to get to know little things." And he actually consulted Wikipedia, not the Star Wars story group, but he actually consulted people on Wikipedia about.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, one thing, one of the points that you were telling, Paul, is that I think because of the people that had left, because of the other series, all the stuff, there's some people that are missing in this series big time, because they're already conditioned with the idea that it's gonna be bad.
Count me as one of them. Count me as one of them, because I was nearly there.
And they're missing. There's so much, like, the story about the rebellion. That's what I'm getting into. That's what I like this series. They're getting into the birth of the rebellion, the stakes about it. Because not everything is rosy and lightsaber flashy stuff. Like there's people that are gonna die. Like all the stuff that Chris, the character Chris that died. If he doesn't guide, Cassian through that, sea of falling stars and TIE fighters, there's no rebellion. Nothing happened because, like, they needed that money, right, to get all the X-Wings and all the stuff. That moment was so important for the rest of the saga. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, when you think about it, he got into something that is really, really important for the rebellion. So I'm hooked. I'm hooked with the series.
Right.
Because, yeah.
Alice, anything that you'd like to add on to that?
And also, we get a different perspective. Like, this is a year also where Rebels start. It's one of my favorite TV shows. Where that one, like, there were some limits because they were a Jedi. So they didn't just, like, go on a killing spree or whatever. But, I mean, I'm sorry I said that. But they didn't, so it was different. They had a moral. So here, like, we see a different perspective of the Rebels. Where even in Rogue One, the guy that told him to, take out Galen Erso, like, it was like a different. There's just like a bunch of different factions in the like Rebel Alliance, and we're seeing that particular like where they're gonna do what they have to do. So it is interesting to see that side of the Rebels.
And also, it's war. Yes. I like it about the aspect of war. In the war, you're gonna have collateral damage, right? And you're gonna have all the stuff is. All that stuff is I like it. I really like it. It's really good.
Cobra Disney Jedi says the heist of those credits is the start of the funding for the rebellion.
Yes, exactly.
I believe it.
Yeah, without that, Luke doesn't have an X-Wing.
Nope.
Yeah.
Without he cannot blow the Death Star. So it's very important.
If only they played Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. Hey, can you play some Billie Eilish? Sure can. Plays Billy Idol. What were we saying, Crit?
Um, I forgot. Kind of forgot.
All right.
You guys can go, and I kind of forgot what I
All
was going
right.
to say.
So let's talk now about the characters.
Yeah.
Starting, of course, with Cassian Andor. And I'll kick this off again. Like I said, seeing Rogue One, I would not, and honestly still do not, say that Cassian Andor is my favorite character from that movie. My favorite character still is the blind guy in K2.
Mhm.
But I definitely have a greater respect for the character of Andor, having now seen what I've seen of this show. I think it makes sense what he's gone through so far, from where he started as that little boy on Kenari to where he is now as someone that would kill in cold blood for the rebellion. And everyone else in here, of course, we'll talk about Mon Mothma in a minute, but all the side characters that he interacts with in Act 1, they fit the world pretty well. The idea of these are pretty much the common folk. And let's think about this too. That's also kind of a point of view we really haven't seen yet, the point of view of the common folk, because it's always been the point of view of, say, a Jedi
It's only
or
like
or a smuggler or a Mandalorian, but never the people that are just going out there and slaving away to earn minimum wage.
yeah. There's only in really books and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's funny you say that, Alice, because as Crit and I were watching this, in fact, Crit, I'll let you say about how this reminded you of an EU novel.
Yes, this whole series reminds me of a EU novel or Legends because it's very slow and it dives into different points of view. Um, what's a good example?
The Obi-Wan Kenobi book. I know
Yes,
that one's very
Obi-Wan.
slow in the beginning.
At the beginning, it's slow.
Yes.
yeah. It reminded me a lot of the post Return of the Jedi books that they focus on different points of view. Oh no. James Luceno. It reminds me a lot of James Luceno's books because he would go on different points of view, similar to how this show is doing things. So I kind of like. It kind of reminds me of Empire Strikes Back, where there were two different points of view. There was Han and Leia, and then there was Luke and Yoda. Um, and one would connect to the other because
Right.
while Luke's training, he sees himself, and that's Luke. He sees himself in the Vader. Oh, no. There were 3 points of view in Empire Strikes Back. There was Leia and Han. There was Luke, and then there was Vader.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those 3 different, and Vader's point of view leads into Han's point of view, where they go to Boba Fett tracks them the Bespin. It's in this one, like the Mon Mothma point of view connects with Luthen, who's connected to the whole Andor heist, and Cybel's still thinking about Andor. He's basically back in his mother's basement,
Eating Fruit Loops, by the way. Oh wait, no, not Fruit Loops. Fruity Puffs.
Fruity Puffs.
There was like the recipe on Star Wars.com.
I believe it's.
So in some ways, this show complements each other throughout the story.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about Mon Mothma. I think the best scene involving her so far is that one scene where she's on the Senate floor and she's trying to introduce this bill that would actually be of benefit, and people are walking out on her because they don't care. I think, and you said it, Crit, where it's either they've so bought into the gaslighting that Palpatine has said, or they just care about their own coffers.
That kind of reminds me of current day politics. I'm going to bring it in. I'm not going to, but there's sometimes someone would bring in a bill, and because they don't care, they just kind of just walk off.
Right.
That,
And speaking of modern politics, yes, I'm going to go here. It was said a lot in sort of the build up to her appearance that Mon Mothma was going to be something of a Nancy Pelosi type figure. Now,
what?
whether you like her or whether you don't, that's not the discussion for this channel. I will say, though, I don't see it.
No.
Maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but I don't see it.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Again, another conversation for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Mon Mothma, I thought everything involving her was pretty good, especially, from her interactions with Luthen to, of all things, seeing her family life and seeing that
Like what?
she doesn't exactly have the best relationship with her husband or her daughter.
They don't. They're rude. They're rude to her. They treat her like trash.
Yeah, they kind of do.
I think that's because she's a Paul. Maybe because she's on a more soft side of the Imperial, because a lot of Palpatine's influence is pretty much taken over the Imperial Senate. I remember. Does Palpatine gets rid of the Senate, doesn't he?
By A New Hope.
Yeah.
I almost said Akbar. Grand Moff Tarkin says it. The regional governors now have direct control over their star systems. Cobra Disney Jedi says Mon Mothma is trying to balance her role as a senator while trying to keep her role as a rebel a secret.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to kill her husband and daughter. I have a feeling that they're going to get killed, and that's going to just make her.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the planet she was trying to rescue again, Bo?
The Gormans.
Gorman, because that was like the reason she left, even in the, or if you spoil this, but Rebels, that's like in season 3, that's why she left, and she was like talking about that planet a lot, and even like in Legends, I think, because I'm still trying to get in Legends, because I just started reading like books and stuff, so I don't know like a lot about them, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think another big thing that's going to happen, maybe even by the season finale, is she's going to get outed in the Senate as a rebel. And that, combined with what you said, Alice, about her being obsessed with saving this one planet, I think we're going to actually see Mon Mothma leave.
Do you think that well, maybe I have a theory. She's going to do something that Sly Moore, if they bring Sly Moore into the story, Sly Moore is not going to see. And then I think Mon Mothma is going to have an actual conversation with Palpatine himself. And Palpatine's going to give her a warning saying, you better not do this again. And she'll do it again. And that's where Palpatine there will be an accident. But I don't know if Palpatine's going to appear. This is all speculation. But
I could go either way on it.
I would like to see Palpatine appear. But by this time in canon, Palpatine is a recluse, and if any, I don't even think anyone sees Palpatine except
for like the big stuff.
And if he does show up, it's kind of like the State of the Address Union, where all the senators have to be there.
Mm-hmm. So I forgot to. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in real quick. All right, so I do have one more bullet point we're going to talk about, because I think it's fair that we mention it. Any negatives revolving around the show. And I do have one. Granted, it's a small one compared to everything else. I think they're getting lazy with their weapons designs. Now, yes, the classic E11.
I noticed, yeah.
Yes, the classic E11 comes back, and there are some good designs, but those are clearly AK-47s. And yes, I know a lot of the original trilogy's weapons were
Yeah, but
basically kit bashes of real life weapons. I get that. But at least George Lucas did his absolute best to hide the fact that those were real life weapons. They're not. That's lazy right there.
Well, yeah, I think it's lazy. It's probably in the prop department. But it kind of reminds me of I. It took me a while to think about it, but the pistol that Andor has for the most part is Kyle Katarn's pistol from the Jedi Knight games. It took me a long time to figure it out, but it's the
I
same
see.
pistol. It's the same pistol. Let me see. Kyle. I want to be sure. Briar. Yeah, it's a. Yeah, Briar. Yeah. Yes, that's the first time that appeared in canon. So he is.
Can
He
you
does
bring it
have.
on screen?
Yeah, he does have. I can't believe I was right. Okay. So Andor's pistol is a Briar pistol from Dark Forces.
Yes,
Okay. Okay. All right. That's pretty cool.
So I was like, that's a. It was how round it was. I'm like, that's a Briar pistol, isn't it? But
It reminded me honestly of a Nerf gun.
yeah, it is in Battlefront. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the weapons, the weapons are a lot to be. The sum of the weapons, for the most part, they're fine. The I don't know who thought it was good idea to do AK-47s. Like, oh, I would assume they would be using standard Imperial, like the E11.
Right. Which they do get their hands on when they're in their disguise. But why not just use them all the time? Why use those AK-47s?
but maybe they don't. Maybe, like Derek said, they don't want to rely on Imperial tech.
Maybe.
I had two minor negatives. Like it's
Okay.
not a big thing, but two that I will, if I had a choice. Why around the base there was no more Imperial equipment, defense equipment, right? You know what I mean? Like I know that they had the TIE
Right.
fighters and stuff. I wanted to see more ground equipment. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing. And the second is that a little bit of Imperial music when it just a touch of it. You know what I mean? Not a lot,
Yeah.
just a little touch to remind you this is the Empire. Be
I
be
could-
aware of us.
I
You know what I mean?
could see that.
So those are my two little things, but minor
And-
things. You know what I mean? So.
And truthfully, the lack of classic John Williams tracks, that's a complaint that you could apply to every single Star Wars show that's come out.
Yeah, this one I don't felt needed John Williams. Kenobi I felt needed John Williams all throughout. But Kenobi had the most soulless music score. Even this music score, even though it's not memorable, it kind of felt more like passion than dun dun dun. Oh, here comes Vader. Dun dun dun. Or no, the Inquisitor theme. Da, 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 da.
Not that much the Vader theme or any. It's just what I'm talking about. Like that point when you know that the Empire's coming. You know, like the little. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it could be slow.
And it's just subtle. It doesn't need to be the whole track. You know what I mean? Like just a little touch. You know what I mean? Like
right.
That's why like Rebels uses the original trilogy soundtrack like perfect.
Yes.
It's Kevin Kiner.
Yeah, Kevin Kiner because he did the Clone Wars too. But also like in Andor, like the intro song, like when the Andor logo pops up, it's different every single time. It's like this track, but around that, it's different based on what the episode is. So that's pretty cool.
So that's pretty much it that I have to talk about with this show. Ultimately, you were right, Crit. This is a great show. I'm looking forward to watching episode 7, especially because by then I will be in Gatlinburg and I'll be watching it actually in person with Coffee on Korriban. And we will be doing a live we'll be doing a reaction for his channel, and we've got something equally as fun planned for this channel. So stay tuned for all of that.
What about the Easter eggs, like Starkiller's helmet in the background?
Uh,
I kind of don't. I want people not to take this the wrong way. The Easter eggs are fine, but those are kind of like if you see like a blaster or something from the books or in the background. That I feel like that's more in universe than the Starkiller helmet was an Easter egg. I feel it was. I don't think Starkiller's ever coming to canon.
no,
And
he
I
wouldn't
stand by
fit.
it. I feel like the Inquisitors just fill the role of Starkiller for the most part.
Oh.
Yes.
This episode had two of them. I like the Echo Cole, the Echo,
Oh yeah,
Echo, Echo One. I like that one, and then also there was one other thing, the Echo and when they're in the chase, he's saying climb, climb, climb. That's the same thing as Rock One when S2K is saying climb, climb. So they kind of tied up with Rogue One there too. So it's kind of like it's pretty cool.
That is true.
Yeah, it's cool because I watch Rogue One every week, like before Andor comes out, and when I get little bits of information and watch it again, it's like
okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I'll definitely be rewatching Rogue One. Let's try saying that 5 times fast. I'll definitely be rewatching Rogue One after this whole show after at least this season is done.
Yeah.
Just to see if anything. Just see if my opinion has changed. And Cobra Disney Jedi says the call to Echo One was a precursor to Echo Base Network. That is, yep.
Yeah.
We are, you are Echo Base Network. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and shut it down for the night. Thank you, of course, to Alice83, Ashla, Felix, and as always, Crit, for joining me on this. This coming Sunday, we are finally going to be digging into the Rings of Power. And I said we were going to have a special guest. I'm just going to go ahead and share who it is because I can. This coming Sunday, we have my dad, Paul Strassner Sr., who is going to be joining us as a special guest to talk about that show. So I hope to see everyone there. I'm looking forward to it. I've got a lot of stuff to watch regarding that, so I got to get started.
Keep an open mind.
I will do my best. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, the Force is family. See you guys later.
See you guys.